Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Casey, and today we are going to do Blitz puff pastry. Now Blitz puff pastry is a lot simpler than regular puff pastry because instead of having to fold in butter, all you have to do is just do the folds because the butter is already mixed into the dough. So if you're interested in easy puff pastry, I have just the recipe for you. Keep watching. The ingredient list for this recipe is super simple. All you're going to need is 4 ounces of all-purpose flour, 4 ounces of bread flour, 2 sticks of butter, 4 ounces of water, and 4 grams of salt. So, to start, you dump all your flours in here, just like that. And you take your butter and you just cut it into like 1-inch pieces, dump it in. This is kind of like how you make pie dough. You're just gonna cut the butter into the flour. I always use my hands for this, but if you have a pastry cutter that you want to use, that works perfectly fine too. Also, the butter should be softened, so, and then you just mix it into your, you want to leave this butter in relatively large chunks because that's how you're going to get the lamination since you're not actually laminating this dough. So we're not gonna mix it up too much. We're just gonna leave it in pretty decent sized chunks, which I'll show you in a second. So, chunks like these, that is perfectly fine. That's how big we're leaving them. So whenever you have all of your flour and your butter mixed in with the chunks about that big, then you're going to take your water. You want to make sure that your water is cold water. That is very, very important for recipes like this because if your water isn't cold, you'll get too much gluten development and your pastry will not be tender. It will be tough. So I dissolved the salt into the water, and now we are just going to add the water into the flour mixture. When I do this, I like to let it sit just for 30 seconds so that the flour can start to absorb the water before we mix it in. So we'll let that sit for a second. And as you can see, the flour is starting to absorb the water. So we are going to start mixing that in. And I just use my hands for everything. You don't need a mixer or any kind of special utensils. All you need is your hands. The only thing that I would suggest getting if you're going to be doing baking and you want it to be more professional tasting is I would definitely get a kitchen scale. Because when you bake, you definitely want to weigh everything out. If you don't weigh it out, depending on the weather, a cup of flour weighs different with the moisture in the air. So you're never going to get it all the same. So it's very, very important to, when you bake, to weigh out your ingredients. Alright, and when your dough looks like one ball, it is ready to go in the refrigerator and rest for 15 minutes. Yeah. Alright, now that our dough has rested for 15 minutes in the refrigerator, I am just going to take some flour and sprinkle it all over my counter, just like that. And then we're going to take the dough, we're going to lay it out on top of the flour, and we are going to roll it into a rectangle. I'm going to put some flour on top of this too. and then roll it into a rectangle. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. When I was in culinary school, I had a chef that told me that I had problems with shapes, that I was probably one of those kids that had an issue because I could never roll it out perfectly. And hey, not much has changed since culinary school, so here we are. So, when you get it rolled out into your rectangle shape, what you are going to do is a book fold. So, you're going to fold one end halfway into the middle, the other end halfway into the middle, and then you're going to fold that in half again so that it looks like this. And then what we do is we put this back in the refrigerator for half an hour to rest again. And we are going to do 3 more folds like that. I forgot to mention, whenever you put it in the fridge, you want to put it in saran wrap so that it doesn't dry out. And then you pop it in the fridge for half an hour. Alright, it was in the refrigerator for half an hour, and we are going to roll it back out into a rectangle again. I misspoke earlier whenever I said that we were going to do this for three more times. You do it 3 times in total. And for the rest of this video, we're just going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about. Because clearly, you know. Also, I'm on keto, so I'm not even going to be able to eat this, which is really unfortunate. But last night my husband told me that I needed to cook more because I don't cook as much as I used to whenever we first got together. Like, I guess making Christmas cookies is not using my culinary skills anymore. But since I love him, here I am, making turnovers. Alright, so once you got it into a rectangle shape again, you are going to do another 4-fold, which is, like I said, fold one end into the middle, fold the other end into the middle, and then fold it in half onto itself again into the fridge for another half an hour. So I rolled this out one more time off camera, and so we have 3 fold ends. And now we are going to roll it out and cut it into squares, because I'm making turnovers with this. You can make whatever you want. There's lots of different things that you can do with it. I'm just making turnovers. And you want to roll this to about a 1/4 inch thick. And you want to keep it as close to a square as you possibly can. That way, whenever you cut out the squares, you don't waste as much. Okay, that should be good. Now I'm going to get a square cutter, and I am just going to cut out little squares. So I'm going to do mini turnovers because this is the biggest square that I have, and I don't feel like actually cutting them out just by hand. It's easier to use a cutter. Now remember, you do want this to be, like I said, relatively thin because you're going to be folding it over again. Now, depending on what you plan on making with it, you can do the thickness that you desire, but I don't want it to be too thick. Okay, now just cut out squares. Now I have jam that I'm going to fill them with, homemade jam that I made this summer. I have peach and I have strawberry, but you can use whatever you like. And I just do a little dab or a little dollop in the middle and then seal the edges with egg and fold them over. Now, since I did 2 different flavors, I did 2 different shapes. These ones are the strawberry ones and these ones are the peach ones. Also, it's very important at this stage to vent your turnovers if you're making turnovers with them, because if not, all of the jam, which obviously I filled this one too full, but the jam will leak out the side. It'll blow a hole through it if you don't vent it, so you definitely want to vent it. You also could egg wash them at this point and sprinkle sugar on them, but I am not going to do that because I'm going to make icing for the tops of them. So now you want to put them into the oven and bake them at 400 degrees until they're golden brown. Everybody's oven's going to be different, so you'll just have to check it I would say probably like do 10 minutes and check it, and then maybe 3 or 4 depending on the color. And here is the final product. Peach turnovers.